Hey, good evening. It's really great to have you here. My name is Daniel. I was a professional opera singer and beatboxer, and tonight we're going to be reacting to Diana Ankudinova's Dernière, Danse. So, I've only heard Diana once, and I remember her voice being quite lovely, very unique to her, and I'm really excited just to jump back into her music. I know she's a very young performer and definitely has still much more room to grow, but with that said, her talent and skill is exceptional, and I'm excited just to jump into this, and I hope you guys are too. So without any further delay, let's just jump into it.
Наш праздник продолжается. Мы приглашаем на сцену победительницу второго сезона проекта телеканала НТВ «Ты супер» Диану Анкудинову. Ваши аплодисменты.
Interesting.
Oh ma douce française, pourquoi si jamais tu commences? Je suis connaisseuse importance. Sans lui je suis savez par où je démence dans le métro. Une dernière danse pour bien me peine immense.
This is so intriguing.
Je veux m'offrir que tu commences. Oh ma douce France. Je regarde le ciel, le jour, la nuit. Je danse avec le doigt.
Oh, her cadences are wonderful.
Un peu d'amour à dormir et je danse, 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 danse. Et dans le bruit, je cours, j'ai peur. Et c'est ma tour, et
Her French is incredible.
je m'abandonne et je me vole, 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 que d'espérance.
Yeah.
Ce chemin, ce absence. J'ai d'autres mes centres marines qui a des corps qui brillent du sens. Je regarde le ciel, je regarde la nuit. Je danse avec le doigt.
Oh my gosh.
Un peu d'amour à dormir et je danse, 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 danse.
Her pacing is amazing. Ooh, very nice. Yeah, nice. Oh my gosh. Her approach. Oh. Oh, what a groove. wonderful approach. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was very well executed. Her approach to so many of those musical cadences or musical phrases were very expertly executed. And personally, I'm a sucker for contraltos. That voice type is relatively rare for women. So to have, not just to be able to have that kind of timbre naturally in your voice, but to be able to refine it well and take on different vocal styles within certain modes of music. And like, she was working in harmonic minor in the beginning of the piece there. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And to put it into the key that she was working with and the way that she approached some of the notes in her cadences, it was just really fun. And there was a lot of musical intrigue throughout the entirety of the piece. And like I mentioned in the video itself, her pacing was incredible. And what I mean by pacing is when you listen to a story or you're watching a story on television, when you're engaging with storytelling, you need to start with a character that has potential but has so much more room to grow. You get the setting where you understand what their potential is, you understand their environment, the world building. You get the rising action where they meet their mentor and they start developing and they start refining their skill, where you get even more of that rising action where you get their call to action. They understand their journey, their mission. They get the climax, the falling action, the resolution. So just in terms of this musical piece, using that structure, you start off really small, but you can feel the potential, you can feel the growth about to happen. And as the piece consistently progresses, you get more of that power, you get more of that emotional investment. Those emotional stakes just keep rising throughout the piece. And the way she moved her body and her facial expression, it was all completely immersed in the music, which I really do love. I am going to comment more on the way that she controls her body in the analysis, so let's just jump into that.
Телеканала НТВ «Ты супер». Диану Анкудинову. Ваши аплодисменты.
Just the instruments really setting the tone here. Let's listen to this again really quick. So right off the bat, when she breathes in on ah, and then immediately goes into an ooh. Something that I might have done differently in that particular regard is to breathe in on the ooh and exhale that ooh and vocalize that ooh in the exact same way that she's doing it right now. And you might be asking, well, what's the difference if the music itself sounds beautiful? And I'm so glad you asked. The reason is because when you breathe in on a vowel, you assign the breath to that vowel, so it comes out more pure. And not to say that you don't execute it still wonderfully, which she did here. It's more of, if you are singing a very pure vowel like ooh, where you create a lot of space in your mouth, you would want that space to be open of ooh instead of ooh, ooh, where if you breathe in on ooh, but if I breathed in on ah, ooh, it's very, very minorly different. Minorly. And it's very difficult to tell that there is a difference in it at all. But when you assign your breath to something, it creates more of an openness, more of a purity. Your body subconsciously recognizes that your breath is assigned to the vowel, and it creates a more fluid structure. Again, not to say that this wasn't fluid. The way she performed this musical cadence was actually very exceptional, and it was very delicate, very light, and the way that she penned this particular flow was very well executed, very closed, but still being well supported and vocalized. So it was very well executed again. I'm just saying that if I was coaching her, I would prefer to have her breathe in on the ooh to allow that to be more, just a tad more open, to really feel that sensation in her body. It's not for the audience's sake, it's for her own. But ultimately, I still really love the way she executed that phrase. Moving on. I actually really like what she did there, where she had that sudden bolt in her body, but it wasn't like really sharp. It was a very fluid surprise. And that's really great because if you do something really sharp, it adds tension in your body. And the more tension you have in your body, the more that restricts airflow. Any place you have tension in your body, that can restrict airflow, which sounds a little weird because you might be wondering, well, restriction of airflow is just in your diaphragm or your larynx. It can't be anywhere else, and that's not true. If you feel tension in not just your larynx, but if you feel tension, just body tension in your arms, in your legs, in your shoulders, that can actually restrict the way the breath is energized in your body. So to have a fluid motion, not a jerky motion, but a fluid motion of surprise to really push the audience into your world while keeping your body loose, that's really great. Oh yeah, just that very gentle crack in her passaggio there, which is the break in your voice. Just mo. Something that you might hear a lot of modern French artists do in their performances is to have that little crack. You'll hear this in vocalists like Alma or Strome, where you just have that gentle lift into their passaggio and immediately go back into their chest voice. And I find it so rich and captivating in terms of its texture. And it's such a great accent. It only happens for a split second, but you really feel that in the musical phrase as a whole. And I really, really love that choice. And she executed it very well. It is very difficult to create that kind of delicate sound and maintain really strong support while in this beginning early stage where you're not fully projecting, but you are still fully supported, making sure that breath is just as strong as if you were singing on a very loud dynamic, a fortissimo, for example, in comparison to this piano, mezzo piano, or soft to medium soft dynamic that she's creating right now. It's very well executed. And her French, oh, it's so good, because I've mentioned this in other videos, but to me personally, singing in French is one of the hardest languages to sing in because it's such a forward-facing nasal language. So to have something like the word danse, dans, en, it's not dans, dans. You create the space and put the en behind your nose, but you're still making sure that that space is open and it's not piercing. It's still rounded and it's still pretty robust. Like in Stromae's song, Alors on danse, alors on danse, instead of alors on danse, alors on danse. You just try to create as much space as possible so it doesn't create that piercing effect. It's still very warm and inviting, but it still reflects the language and the purity of the language exceptionally well. So kudos to her for being able to execute this at the level she is. French is a very difficult language, especially if it's not your native language. And oh, her breath there is really great. That breath is just very strong, very powerful. It energizes her entire body, and it just immediately flows into the phrase, where the phrase again is not being sung at a forte, fortissimo, very loud dynamic. That breath is just there to energize her body, energize her support, to carry through the musical phrase, which is very well done. Oh, the way she closed her consonants there. Oh, yeah. When you close a consonant, it's not the end of the musical phrase because you're still vocalizing. Your breath is still spinning. But when you close something, you feel that closeness so it can open up again to create more of a contrast within a single musical phrase. Or it could be a really great transitioning tool to a new musical cadence. And these choices are really well executed. You can tell she spent a lot of time just sitting down with the piece itself, structuring how am I going to vocalize this? What words am I going to close? What am I going to open and extend forward? And yeah, this is very well done. And it's so delicate here. Oh, I love this. Oh, yeah. Her vocal lines here, very well executed. Oh my gosh, her voice. Ugh. Her vocal agility is mind-blowing right now. Like, we're listening to that again. Woo! Ugh, yeah. Just her phrasing here, it's chilling. It's constantly in movement, but you don't really feel this large veneer just completely sheathing you in warmth. It's just very delicate. It's dancing around you, and it's almost haunting in a way, but her vocal agility is just so mesmerizing and captivating. It's like, if any of you have seen Disney's rendition of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, just pretty much everyone is looking at Esmeralda doing her dance. It's very fluid, it's very seductive, and that gypsy nature is very intriguing. There's an air of mystery. And I mentioned in another video, in The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, he emphasizes how critical presenting an air of mystery is in seducing. And you recognize this in stories like Carmen from George Bizet, where her entire modus operandi is built around seduction, is built around mystery, and capturing her prey, very snake-like, serpent-like, where they're just kind of slithering, evading attacks until the moment to coil. And it's just flowing. Her agility, her ability to move around and just completely entrance you in that charm and that seduction. Oh, it's just so mesmerizing. I love that. And just the fact she's still playing with her passaggio even at louder dynamics, it really just is more evidence to show that her breath support is consistent from the very beginning to the very end of the piece, where she is still able to do all of this vocal agility regardless of dynamic, which is very important for musicians to master. And I love the fact that she's done this at such an early age. It's very, very difficult to really get a hold of. So to do this at her age, especially here, is remarkable. So on those dances, I would have preferred a little bit more difference in each dance. Danse, danse, danse. Where the musical cadence is very nice, but I say often on the channel that if you have a repeating word or a repeating phrase, it's very important to change it every time you say it, even if it's just minorly. Like, yes, the whole musical phrase was still very well connected and fit within the tones of the piece, but I want a little bit more, like, if you're repeating something, there has to be a reason you're repeating it. You're not just saying dance, 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 dance. You're like, dance, 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 or however it is that you want to approach it. Obviously, I'm not saying that you have to do that incredible polarizing array of dynamic within that single musical structure, but you get my point, hopefully, which is, in this particular example of danse, 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 you might want to have that more tenderness leading into the end of danse, 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 instead of the danse, 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 where it's the same dynamic. You might want to play around with the dynamic a little bit, maybe play around with the way, the fashion that you're singing Danse, but just adding a little bit of contrast, even if it's just very minor, adds a world of difference. Very similar to that example where I pointed out her play with her passaggio there. That split second added a world of difference to the texture of the musical cadence, and it means so much to be able to add these small accents to really create a masterful piece. So I would have preferred a little bit more contrast there, but like I just said, her musical phrasing through that was very exceptional, and we're gonna listen to that again.
Pluie, un peu d'amour, à dormir, mais j'ai danse, 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 danse.
Yeah, it's really well executed and it's wonderful. Just as a personal preference, I would have preferred a little bit more contrast in the way that she was executing each individual dance as part of the whole collective musical phrase.
Le bruit, j'ai cours, j'ai peur, et c'est
Ah, her attack on that. Bah. Yeah, excellent. We're gonna listen to that again.
danse, 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 danse. Et dans le bruit, j'ai cours, j'ai peur, et c'est ma tour, de là, dans tout.
And something else that I like that she's doing here is that you can very faintly, if you're listening with headphones, hear H's expelled at the end of her words, where it's not immediately cut off with a glottal. Like if I were to sing the word je, you can feel a sharp cutoff, but if I were to add that very silent H at the end, that je, all of a sudden, it feels like there's an extension, and that extension can be used to connect more musical phrases. So from je to je. Audibly, it sounds almost the same, but if you feel it in your body, and the audience can actually visually see you putting that kind of sound in your body and physicalize that, all of a sudden, you feel that momentum. Not necessarily hear the momentum, but you can feel it in your body. An audience's experience, not just audibly, but physically, is imperative to a masterful performance. So to add these H's like she's doing, I would have preferred if her H's were a little bit more quiet because they are audible, and I would prefer a silent H, but I think she definitely has the absolute correct idea in elongating those phrases by adding that gentle H at the end, because it creates that momentum. It creates that audience pull consistently throughout the entirety of the piece. Excellent stuff. Great choices.
Paris, je m'abandonne et je me vol que d'espérance.
Oh, yeah, the ending of her musical phrase there was so tender, and it just... And you just felt that pull like I just finished mentioning of the se, and it just kept going into the next musical cadence. Really well executed.
Vol que d'espérance. Ce sont chemin, sous absence.
Yeah.
J'ai d'autres mais sans toi marine qui a des corps qui brillent du sang.
Oh, so good. Just the way that she approached that. Yeah, you just feel that pull and push, but it's so fluid. It's not deal, which you could do, but nah, just that, because the flow of the piece is so intrinsic, you just feel that. Oh yeah, you just feel that sensation in your body. Incredible work. Yeah. Yeah, and her vowels are so bright too, but they're also very well-rounded. In comparison to going fee, you would do fee, where the vowel is still bright and it's still forward, but it's not piercing. Of fee, fee. It's very well-rounded and it still fits that cursive tone of the piece. I love it. I love how much space she's putting in her mouth. That's wonderful. Okay, so right there, she had a fist and pulled it up. So something that I learned in my performance technique class in university from a very successful Broadway performer who's also performed in various television shows and movies throughout the course of his career. When physicalizing energy in your body, the moment you make a fist, even if that tension is just in your fist, you're feeling that tension in the entirety of your body. So unless you're about to hit someone in terms of a particular scene, I feel it is always best to allow your body to not create that fist. It might be in the moment subconsciously, but to train yourself to not make those fists, both on a physical and subconscious level, you're very minorly restricting airflow. You're very minorly restricting the way that the air is being incorporated throughout the entirety of your body. And what I mean by that is, typically in terms of classical singing, the way that you would want to internalize your breath is when you breathe, air is all around you, and when you breathe in, you're not breathing in through your chest and raising your chest, you're breathing in through your diaphragm, and you just feel that expansion in your diaphragm moving outward and contracting. And that breath is coming in from the ground, charging and invigorating your legs, moving into your diaphragm, expanding your diaphragm, moving up into your chest to resonate in your chest, move through your larynx and pass through your mask to project sound. And that's the general idea, where breath is just completely charging your entire body from your feet to the very top of your head. And you just feel that breath just charging each musical phrase, regardless of dynamic, which is why support is so essential. So the moment that you clench in any fashion, whether you're clenching your toes, you're stomping, you're closing your fist, whatever the case is, on a physical level as well as a subconscious level, you're restricting that airflow from your feet to the tip top of your head. So personally, if she's going to make those kind of rapid movements, to do so in a way that's a little bit more fluid, like she was doing in the beginning with that surprise fluid motion, I would have preferred that more than the fist. But that being said, still very well executed. You can hardly tell. Her vibrato was very consistent there. When you have vibrato, your breath is spinning in comparison to a straight tone where you're elongating it. And what I mean by that is, if I were to sing a straight tone, fee, versus spinning the breath, fee, you can tell that when you have enough support, that breath can just spin in very similar to a bike tire. There's no inconsistencies in it, otherwise you would crash and fall off. When you spin the breath, it's just a constant motion. There's no thinking about it. It's just, as long as you have that strong support, your breath will continue to spin on its own. And for her to have that very and just have that really consistent breath spinning at the end of her cadence, regardless of dynamic, very well done. Her intensity in her face is exactly what you want in a performance. Yes, yes. When you aren't performing musically, you need to perform visually. You need your audience to still be maintained in the world with you, even if you're not vocalizing anything. So to have that intense look in your eye and your body representing what it is you're feeling throughout the piece, excellent mark of performance. Wonderful. Yeah, that open body position. You're just completely taking in all of the energy around her. Love it. A little bit too sharp there on her movement again, a little bit too restricted. But that being said, her engagement right at the start of the musical cadence, I really felt that and I really enjoyed that. We're going to listen to that again. Yeah. Now we're in a more powerful dynamic, a more powerful volume. And the fact that she has so much vocal agility still creating that cursive serpent-like coil and just slithering through all obstacles. This is exactly how I imagine the character Carmen, or just a very enticing sound sound quality that just completely coils around and envelops you. It's dazzling yet chilling, and I love it. Oh, her approach to those notes there. We're listening to that again. Woo! Oh yeah, just incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, just the way she did that. La mer. Yeah, just her approach to that. She hasn't lost a single step in her approach to this piece, and it is so consistent. To maintain consistency in your vocal style throughout the entirety of the piece, I do not think gets enough credit. That is actually exceptionally difficult to do. You might just think, oh, you know, you start a piece in a certain way and you just ride that wave. No, you gotta keep working against your intrinsic nature to want to do specific personal habits that you might take in other pieces. But in this particular piece, to have this kind of very flow-like specific style of singing, it's something that you constantly have to be mindful of throughout the entirety of the piece without losing the world that you've built, without losing any of that forward-facing momentum. To be able to have that mindfulness while performing is exceptionally difficult and the mark of a really wonderful performer. And the way she approached that, she had that silent H, but that was still a little bit too vocalized for my liking. But then again, she did exactly what she was supposed to do, which is start in of ah instead of ah. And obviously the energy of the piece is giving a little bit more vocalization to that H, so I don't really fault her for that. But it is something to keep in mind and is something that can be developed further if she chooses to. I love her energy in this, though. It's so great. And just the way she plays with her passaggio there, the break in her voice, it's so controlled. Very difficult to do. If any of you have ever listened to a professional yodeler before, incredible skill that goes into mastering that craft. Incredible skill. It is so difficult to master that. So for what she's doing right here, which is a very abbreviated version of yodeling, where you're just really playing with your passaggio going up and down between your chest voice and your head voice, it's so, oh yeah. Oh yeah, just really leaning into that and just feeling, again, just not losing a step of that cursive serpent-like behavior. It's so good, dude. Woo! Yeah. And she had a little bit of that musical theater technique where you just have that straight tone and then spin the breath on the end of. Oh yeah, it's a very great way to end the piece, especially when you've already finished your climax and you're just coming down into this falling action resolution and you just feel this flow. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. The flow was consistent all the way through the piece, and that is exceptionally difficult. Amazing job, Diana. Amazing. Like, again, aside from my very minor critiques, I think the way that she executed this is beyond her years. When I was 16, I was only a few years into my professional training to be an opera singer. And I did not have the vocal agility and competency to maintain a piece as well as she did especially at this age. So honestly, the fact that she was able to produce this kind of sound, this kind of quality, she's only going to mature more throughout her life and experience as a performer, which I'm really excited to see more of. Her voice is so unique and intrinsic to her, and I can't wait to follow her more throughout her career. Like, her voice is just absolutely lovely. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments. I do read all of the comments, even if I might not heart or reply to all of them, so please just know that your comments do not go unnoticed. My live streams are Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys want to stop by, say hey, ask me questions. I really enjoy talking about ideas and philosophy and different things like that, so please stop by and we can just hang out for a brief period of time on Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am still in development of my Patreon, which is not only going to include early access to these reactions to music videos, but also reactions to anime as well. And we discuss the philosophy behind characters' decision making and the structure of characters and just storytelling as a whole. As you can tell by the name of the channel, I really love storytelling, so I'm really excited to keep making those videos, and it is almost done, so I will give you all updates as to when that is completed. I really appreciate all of you being here. It really does mean a lot to me, and thank you so much, and I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.